In the late 1920s, America was riding high on confidence. Factories were expanding, cities were growing, and the stock market seemed unstoppable. Ordinary people invested their savings, believing wealth was guaranteed. Banks freely gave loans, and buying stocks on borrowed money became common. This period was called the Roaring Twenties, a time of optimism and excess. But beneath this shiny surface, dangerous cracks were forming. The economy was growing faster than real value, and speculation was replacing logic. Few people questioned whether this growth was sustainable. Everyone believed the good times would never end. In October 1929, everything changed. The stock market suddenly collapsed, triggering panic across the nation. Investors rushed to sell their shares, but buyers disappeared. Prices crashed within hours. Fortunes vanished overnight. This moment marked the beginning of the Great Depression. Confidence evaporated and fear replaced hope. The crash didn't just affect wealthy investors. It shook the entire economy. Businesses lost funding, banks faced pressure, and trust in the financial system began to collapse. What seemed like a temporary shock soon turned into a national disaster. As panic spread, people rushed to banks to withdraw their money. But banks didn't have enough cash. Thousands of banks collapsed, taking people's life savings with them. Families who had saved for decades were suddenly left with nothing. With no insurance system in place, deposits were simply gone. This destroyed public trust in banks. People stopped spending, businesses stopped investing, and economic activity slowed even further. The banking system, once the backbone of the economy, became one of its biggest weaknesses. By the early 1930s, unemployment reached record levels. Nearly 1 out of every 4 Americans had no job. Factories closed, farms failed, and wages disappeared. Families struggled to survive. Bread lines stretched for blocks, and soup kitchens became a daily necessity. Many people lost their homes and began traveling the country in search of work. Children dropped out of school to help their families. The Great Depression wasn't just an economic crisis, it was a humanitarian disaster. At the same time, American farmers faced another tragedy. Severe droughts and poor farming practices turned fertile land into dust. Massive dust storms destroyed crops and buried towns. This disaster, known as the Dust Bowl, forced thousands of farming families to abandon their homes. Many migrated west, hoping for a better life. Instead, they found poverty, discrimination, and limited opportunities. Agriculture, once a stable part of the economy, became another source of suffering during the Depression. In 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt became president during America's darkest hour. In his first speech, he famously said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." Roosevelt believed the government had a responsibility to act. He promised relief for the suffering, recovery for the economy, and reform to prevent future crises. His leadership style restored hope. People felt that someone was finally taking control of the situation. Roosevelt introduced a bold set of programs called the New Deal. Its goal was simple: put people back to work and stabilize the economy. The government launched massive public projects, building roads, bridges, dams, and schools. Millions of Americans found employment through these programs. Money started flowing again. The New Deal marked a turning point. Government intervention became a key tool in economic recovery. One of Roosevelt's most important actions was fixing the banking system. The government temporarily closed banks to stop panic withdrawals. New laws created the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, protecting people's savings. Financial markets were regulated through the Securities and Exchange Commission. These reforms restored trust and prevented reckless speculation. For the first time, ordinary citizens felt their money was safe. The New Deal also focused on long-term protection. The Social Security program was introduced to support elderly citizens and unemployed workers. Minimum wage laws, overtime pay, and labor protections were established. These changes transformed American society. The government was no longer just an observer. It became a safety net for its people. The Great Depression taught the world powerful lessons. Unchecked greed, weak regulations, and blind optimism can destroy economies. The New Deal showed that smart government action can stabilize markets and protect citizens. Even today, economists study this era to prevent future disasters. History reminds us that economic crashes follow patterns, and ignoring those patterns can lead to the same painful ending. Despite progress, the Depression never fully ended during the 1930s. It was World War II that finally revived the economy. Factories shifted to military production, creating millions of jobs. Unemployment disappeared almost overnight. Industrial output soared. By 1945, America had not only recovered, it had become a global economic powerhouse.